Hey, everybody. We have the best person in the world or I should say, the person that you and I most want to speak with about these bombshell emails from the Jeff Epstein estate. Allow me to introduce someone who needs no introduction, Lincoln's Bible LB, Stephanie Koff. Hi,
Hi.
Stephanie.
Hi, everybody. Happy to be here with you. It's a
So,
crazy
Stephanie,
time.
last time we were on together,
Yeah.
we were talking about how people needed to understand that the Epstein story and the Russia story were not separate issues, or that the oligarchy, that it's all of a piece, that it's not one thing is a distraction from the other, it's all together. How are
Yeah.
you feeling about that assessment now?
Yeah. I feel pretty good about it. feel pretty solid in it. Um, it's always been uh, a compromise story.
There you go.
So, and when you get into the realm of compromise, especially that era, and even up to today, the 90s to today, with Russia as it reformed itself after the collapse of the Soviet Union, and the assets that it had already banked in the West, in the US in particular, for this story,
Mm-hmm.
its relationship and connections to some of our closest allies, and what was happening in those parts of the West with their assets. It's not the connection between Russia, the Maxwell family, the British monarchy, Epstein, and then, the trailer trash version of all of that being Trump, right? The US, sorry for that. But the US, sort of grotesque, American grotesque, right? That came into that, and the power that we wield, and the relationships that we had. When you look at those players that have always been at the very, very, very core of this Epstein story, Ghislaine, Prince Andrew, Donald Trump, his best friend of years and years, the girls being recruited out of Mar-a-Lago, especially some of the more prominent survivors who, unfortunately, Virginia not with us today. That's the circle. You look at the New York side of things. That same circle was locked in New York with the financiers there that we're now
Right.
seeing all these banks pop up, who also happen to be these major institutions that were responsible. I want to say responsible beneficiaries of the flight capital coming
Right.
out of the collapse of the Soviet Union, when the newly formed Russia needed to become a different kind of economy. It went from being
Right.
a communist structure. So this is geopolitical economic framework that, when you pull back, you can see it all and all the different players. And then you condense it all the way down to these particular individuals. And you
Right.
realize, oh, this is a compromise story, so that the Russian state, as it reformed and became anew, still had its KGB grip, tools and tactics on the West that it needed to be, which means capturing people in blackmail operations, especially sexual compromise, because, these are nihilists, the Kremlin. It's just a nihilist organization. They
So
don't
when you were
care
talking,
if you're
sorry,
trafficking
go ahead.
children, if they
I
get
want
something
to
out of it.
I want to put the time frame for people listening,
Yeah.
because as you were talking, I had a moment that you only have on occasion, which
Okay.
is there is a fog that clears right before your eyes. And I'm having this, I'm getting the chills a little bit. So when you talk, let's just
Good.
start with the Soviet Union collapses. Just to, a lot of our listeners remember this, but let's put the time frame. It's around 1991.
Yeah.
The relation, Epstein, Jeff Epstein buys his home near Donald Trump in Palm Beach around 1990. So when you look at their relationship for that 15-year period. This is what we're talking about, their close relationship from 1990 to 2015. Now, when you're talking about, okay, there's perestroika, Russia, everything's up for grabs, including the previous state-owned industries and all this money. And you're talking about, the rise of the oligarchs and how Putin eventually comes into power and tames them, says, I know you've been doing really corrupt things. I want a piece of that, and I want to have a piece of you. So if you're not loyal to me, I can kill you or whatever, or prosecute you, or the same thing.
Right.
So we have
always remembering the word you're looking for is mafia. So the Russian state the Russian Federation became a mafia state. It was the intelligence, the Kremlin intelligence services, and all the institutions and bureaucracies around the government fused with the Russian mafia.
Right.
Full stop.
And so we have that. I love that you're saying that. So you're right, because sometimes I use these words like oligarchy or kleptocracy. Let's just call it a mafia.
It's mafia.
You have a mafia, which is a criminal enterprise fused with the state. So if we look at this timeline, we say around 1991, we get, fall of the wall, things are open in Russia. Within 10 years, because of the looting and the mafia state, we get Putin's rise to power. Now we're in, just to give a framework, let's say it's 2000. We are now in 2025. As you know, Vladimir Putin has been in charge for a quarter century already. So Vladimir Putin, when Stephanie knows this, but I just want to put my eye clearing thing. Vladimir Putin comes to power with a desire to restore the Russian imperial period. And he's always been focused on trying to get back the territories that were freed. We can talk about Ukraine and all these other areas that were now independent. He's always been trying to. He has this long-term goal, right? So he's got that. And you're saying, the techniques he used as a KGB agent are the same ones he's using going forward. We use the tools we use, and he uses using compromise. Now, I want to mesh. It works. But what's interesting is this intersection. You bring Trump in, but we know he was U.S. mafia toy and all this stuff. But let's talk about the Maxwell and Epstein piece, because these things are all going to fuse together in how this works. Epstein, we know, we even heard Howard Lutnick say it. In addition to being a pedophile and a disgusting person, he treasured, and we've seen it in the emails, getting blackmail on people, compromise, because it was either a carrot or a stick. It was I do you a favor by covering shit up for you, and now you owe me, or it's more direct, I will bring you down. This is something Epstein always did. And I wonder, and we also have Epstein, so we have Epstein, before we talk about the Soviet connection, Epstein was obviously connected to the Mossad, right? We know, with Israel's secret police. And also,
my source said Oman.
Oman.
So there's, just like in Israel, or in the United States, Israel has a sophisticated branch of intelligence. And so many different jobs, different divisions, different things. We have NSA, CIA, FBI, and then different intelligence agencies within those groups, all overseen by DNI, all that kind of stuff. Israel has its own surveillance tech, what we would think of as signal intelligence, what we would think of as the SIGINT, which would be the acronym for which we have at the NSA, and that's Oman. So that's the division. Robert Maxwell was a Mossad spy himself, as he kind of promoted.
This is Ghislaine's father, right?
Ghislaine's father. He did know Jeffrey. He did recruit Jeffrey. I think Ghislaine introduced Jeffrey in, but then Maxwell took him under his wing. They did know each other. They were alive together. All of those stories where she met him in New York after her father died, those are all lies from that sex trafficker, Ghislaine, and criminal and fraudster and perjurer. So you can't listen to what she says, right?
So I'm putting all the countries together, right?
Putting all the countries together. And Maxwell also worked a lot with the Kremlin in those days, the Soviet-era Kremlin. His business partner was Semyon Mogilevich, the same character that Donald Trump laundered money for through Trump.org, all of that being very well documented. And the head of the Russian mafia, the number 2 in the FBI most wanted list for a very long time.
So let's look at these trios.
These are the characters.
Let's look at this triad. We've got Robert Maxwell, the so-called media mogul, but someone who is both a spy and a guy who likes money. And money, where was it? Whenever there's an opportunity, right now people talk about AI. That's where everyone's throwing money around, like NSF grants from the government. There's a big slosh of money. Well, in the 90s, the big money, the billions flowing around was from Russia. So anyone who cared about money at that level was wanting to get a part of it. And of course, Maxwell was that kind of guy. Epstein is that kind of guy. Epstein got his start with, we know compromise and also running money for billionaires. So, and hiding money, as you know, for billionaires. And so who are the best people in the 90s at hiding money? It's the Russians, because they had a lot of fucking money to hide. So we get Maxwell, we get Epstein, and then we know Donald, even before Donald is closely knit in this, Donald was always connected to the US mob. And as you talked about last time, the US Italian mob, the Russian mob rolled that up.
That's correct. And
they're all kind of merged together. Again, all happening in the 1990s. We get these characters, right?
The 80s to the 90s. The sort of coming collapse of the Soviet Union was easy to see for the criminal underworld for quite a while before the public collapse. They certainly helped orchestrate a lot of it, because then it was sort of like, ooh, up for grabs, right? So yeah, I would say from the mid 80s, by the time that the Giuliani is doing his commission trials and the heads of the U.S. 5 families of the U.S. mafia are getting taken out criminally, Paul Castellano, of course, being shot to gun down himself because he wasn't cooperating the way everybody wanted him to cooperate. That story is the backdrop and the underpinnings for what happened in the 90s with the flight capital that you're speaking of. We got rolled by the Russian mafia. They invaded us from the underground up.
Right. And Trump is their boy. Now, if people think we're being...
Krasnov.
So, what?
Krasnov, right?
Krasnov was his name. That was his code
name.
Krasnov
was his KGB name. Yeah.
And he's so stupid that he doesn't even know that he is an agent. He thinks he's the guy in charge. Okay, so in case people think we're wearing tin, hats here, I just want to mention Ehud Barak, Prime Minister of Israel, is mentioned throughout Virginia Roberts Joffrey's book.
Yeah.
She says that there is a well-known prime minister who brutally raped her and choked her, and she thought she was going to die, and on Epstein Island. And then later she uses his name. Now, I can't exactly say they are the same person, but that is the implication. We know Ehud Barak had a relationship with Epstein. So we've got that. We've got Israel in there. We have obviously England, because Prince, the Andrew formerly known as Duke and Prince,
whoever he is,
Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, we know had this relationship with Virginia and was part of, not just that, according to all the reporting from her and others, that he was repeatedly spending time with Epstein, and undoubtedly Epstein has compromised. We're talking now about 2 countries. We've got England, we've got the UK, we've got Israel, 3 countries. We have Russia, we know, involved in this. We think we're going to get to that piece. So, guys, we're not making this up. There's Ehud Barak, we've got Andrew, the former prince. And of course, in the US, Epstein was Donald Trump's quote unquote best friend for 15 years.
Best friend.
And bestie. And Ghislaine, in addition to, as you talked about last time, helping serve Jeff Epstein's prurient interest, she was part of rounding up and finding these men, in part to protect Epstein, because who would go after him if they were doing the same thing, but also in part to build his war chest. It's money. Information is money. So guys, you know what we're talking about. We're not nuts. And there's a next layer, but go ahead. Thoughts?
Yeah, I would just say it's always been a money story. That's why you keep having me on, but and I keep saying it, and I've been saying it and saying it and saying it. And I'm not trying to be cold to the victims and the survivors and all those horrific crimes. Um, but it's all a money story. When you
Right.
follow the money, all the players are there and everything becomes crystal clear. There's no doubt. Andrew, during those years in when he was really swinging around with Jeffrey, which was sort of like the early aughts, late 90s to early aughts, he was appointed by the Queen to be in charge of her purse. So there's a title that he had, and the job that he had in the royal family was a massive one. He was in charge of, she put him in charge of the money. She really did. I can't remember the
And let me
exact
just help
title of it.
people understand this. There still is, obviously, there's the UK, and everyone thinks of the monarchy as being, oh, it's this quaint thing from the past. Actually, the British crown is obviously separate, all as a separate financial entity from the UK. And in
Right,
fact, the British crown owns things like the Channel Islands. So
right.
Jersey, where I have been, like they own these offshore, what are they, not protectorates, but they're these crown dependencies.
Tax
They're
havens,
so,
the crown dependencies that are
right,
global tax havens for anybody. Our friend Stuart Sevray was a senator there, calls it, what are they selling here? What is the
right.
crown selling with these islands?
Secrecy.
And they're
Right.
selling secrecy, or even more acutely, a the a place of beyond the law. So
Right.
there's no laws that can touch you there when it comes to your money. Now,
Right.
Andrew was swinging around with oligarchs who he from the former Soviet Union, who he was presumably meeting through Epstein, or vice versa, introducing Epstein to. So if you look at their relationship, yes, they were close friends. Yes, there's all the glamour and all the socializing and the socialite garbage that those two men were involved with that Ghislaine was using. And she'd love to be the it girl, right? And have these parties and be at these weddings. And they were at every single important event, which is why you see pictures of them with all of these people across the sort of spectrum. And everybody sort of then speculates, oh, they're in the network of the sex trafficking. No, that's called trust washing. Right. So they were trust washing their own behavior
Right.
and also getting access themselves and getting access to high net worth individuals, powerful individuals that nation state intelligence services beyond the United States and the United Kingdom are what we always perceived as being our geopolitical adversaries, if not outright enemies, would pay a fucking fortune for. So it's a racket. It's a racket. They were
Right.
running a racket. And the amount of money available was astronomical. Now, Andrew needed Epstein. Epstein cut his teeth at Bear Stearns under Ace Greenberg,
Right.
doing handling high net worth individuals' money. The money that he was handling was in the very beginning was from the Bronfman estate, who we know was partners to Meyer Lansky, Lucky Luciano, and Al
The
Capone.
world beneath. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
world beneath, right? And it was Meyer Lansky who set up the whole and created the concept of offshore money laundering. Because Al Capone got popped by the tax man because he didn't pay taxes. Nobody wanted anybody coming after the money. So he goes to Switzerland and they create this shit, right? They create
Right.
these offshores and all these islands, the Jersey Islands being also offshore tax havens. So when we talk about the Russian mafia coming in and rolling up the US mafia, understand what they also took were the offshore banking network, all of that banking, that
Right.
network, that process. That
And
that's
even, oh, and there's a
that's
whole
what you're
other,
taking,
there's a whole other piece I'm not going to take people to at this moment. I'm going to, because yeah, but let's talk about what my sort of brain clearing fog thing was.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So there's a question that arises, which is, since Jeff Epstein had this compromising information about Donald Trump before the first election, as we are seeing in these emails, and Jeff Epstein, as we saw in the emails, was basically giving information about Donald Trump to
To
the
the Kremlin.
Russians,
That's right.
to the Kremlin, as we
I'm
saw,
sorry, I had to sneeze.
bless
So
you,
sorry.
in this email. And we also know that his contact that he was talking to, and I'm just going to pull this up, in 2017, in February of 2017, I'm just looking on my slides right now to get this slide in the right place, that to contact Jeff Epstein out of New York had in the Kremlin was this UN, the Russian representative to the UN, which is essentially,
Spy.
I mean, a spy.
Spy master. Yeah.
Spy master. He was he died in 2017.
Yeah.
And we have never the New York coroner, this is right in the, this is a fact. Here we go. The New York Examiner won't disclose the cause of the Russian envoy's death. He died of a quote unquote heart attack. This was Vitaly Churkin.
Yeah.
And they said it was a matter of diplomatic protocol. They weren't going to reveal it. Churkin, according to a 2019, and this date is important, 2019, there is a long email where Jeff Epstein is spilling his guts to Michael Wolff, one of the least trustworthy, although helpful people. I mean, he gives information out, but complicated journalists. There's this lengthy email. Oh, sorry, I don't want to talk about that particular email. I'm sorry. Yeah. There's a different email where he is reaching out to a Norwegian member of parliament, and I'm forgetting what year that particularly was, but he's reaching out to him and saying, hey, I had a really good contact with Churkin. Could you talk to Putin to say that Lavrov should be speaking with me? So this is really important because we get in the run up to, and I'm going to pull this date up. I think this was also in 2019. In 2019, when Donald Trump is in the midst of, he's at the beginning, he wants to be reelected. The Mueller report is about to come out. We are, Donald Trump really doesn't want to not be elected because he's convinced he will be prosecuted by the Department of Justice. And it's at this moment that we have these emails from Jeff Epstein where he's starting to get, I don't know if it's desperate, but he's getting loose with his conversations and talking about Donald Trump and how dirty he is, and talking about Donald Trump and the Russian deal with the Palm Beach estate that was purchased for $95 million as a way just to hand Donald money. In this time period, you get Epstein again throwing this information around. And it dawned on me, and I'm going to show you my theory here, that the reason why Epstein had to be killed or had to die when he did was related to Russia and Trump's re-election. And that's why he had to die then. And when you look at, I'm going to just show you.
I got to go like this.
What? Oh, glasses. Yeah. I want to get to, okay. We get to, let me get to 2019. Oh, here we go. Here. In 2017, 2018, when Donald Trump is in the midst of all these problems with the Mueller investigation, with James Comey, right? We get Jeff Epstein sending an email to this very important European official, who wasn't just in the role, this guy Thorbjørn Jagland, he wasn't just a member of the Norwegian government, parliament. He was also had this high role in Europe. And I can tell you what it was in a second. But this is the email where Epstein, if you look at the bottom, says, I think you might suggest to Putin that Lavrov can get insight on talking to me. Vitaly Churkin used to, but he died, ? And then we get Jagland responding to Epstein saying, I'll meet Lavrov's assistant on Monday and we'll suggest, thank you for a lovely evening. I'll come to UN high level week. So he's saying he'll be in New York. And then Epstein says, Churkin was great. He understood Trump after our conversations. It is not complex. He must be seen to get something. It's that simple. Now, This is in 2008.
So he must be seen to get something, meaning he's only going to, it's so sensitive. This is going to be in person. This is not stuff that's going to go over any kind of signal intelligence, anything that can be grabbed by a foreign intelligence agency. They understand the subtext of Jeffrey. Jeffrey understands how the Kremlin works. That's what that's revealing. This is not the first time he's interacted with them. It's not the first time. This is not, he don't just come out of the, come out of the woodwork and then and know how to interact with the Kremlin and what the rules are and what has to happen in person, what can or cannot be seen. This is a sophisticated communication to a proxy, right? Through a third person who should also know all of these things, but Jeffrey can talk to him at his level of statecraft in terms of how we're going to get this very sensitive information into the hands of Vladimir Putin, as if Vladimir Putin didn't already have it. So Jeffrey's saying, I've got even more. I've got some explosive shit.
Right.
To think that Putin didn't have that is chilling to the bone. Is this just a desperate man trying to peddle something with some foreign state because he can see that Putin has influence over Trump and maybe he's trying to get out of something or blah, 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 blah. Yeah, probably, kind of clearly. But he also knows that this guy's dead. He also
and think about when he died.
He knew what happened to his would have been his sort of proxy or de facto father-in-law was, according to Ghislaine, was killed by the intelligence services that he was working for. So he knows how the world works on that level and always had. So he's actually not wanting to die, I think, at this point, but to expose himself this way, to say, I'm the one who's got all the damaging stuff. It's either, will you protect me? Or I've got damaging stuff that you somehow don't have your hands on, to the degree that your envoy to the UN has to talk to you in person for it. He can't even tell you on the phone. So everybody needs to have a one-on-one meeting, a face-to-face meeting between the Russian president, the envoy to the UN, and the Russian version of the Secretary of State. The three most powerful men in the Kremlin, in Russia, have to have a face-to-face meeting to discuss this content that Jeffrey Epstein has already shared.
And let's think
Come on. Got to pull back and look at it like, what the fuck is being said here? And this Norwegian...
he was the Secretary General for the Council of Europe. He was in that role.
Secretary General for the Council of Europe is saying, I get it. We'll make it happen.
So let's think about that, right? This is one of the most explosive emails in all of this. Let's think about the timing. This guy, Churkin, is killed or has a quote unquote heart attack in February of 2017, within 2 weeks of this is Donald Trump becoming president. Remember, during the interregnum in December was when, the whole Steele dossier? I have a feeling that he might have been a source. There's something about him gone that really upsets Epstein. Now, let's just look at this time frame. If Epstein was tipping off or informing Churkin, and Churkin dies in February, we know that Epstein was informing Churkin of stuff in the run-up to Donald Trump taking office, and probably even when he was running for office. This is likely.
Yeah. So remember, we had Kislyak in there as well. We had another spy master in there. We had another spy master in there that was managing and handling the entire Republican Party with Lavrov behind the scene. We had Kislyak, Sergei Kislyak, who Jeff Sessions had to recuse himself around the Russia investigation because of Kislyak's involvement. This was the head sort of spy guy for the Kremlin, that official that was interacting with the U.S. You had Jared Kushner trying to reach out through him and others to try to set up secret back channels so they could all have the right conversations. Everybody needs to remember this. It wasn't a hoax. These were recorded conversations. That's my dog. She's going to talk a little bit. So not to speak so quickly in that, but I just want people to remember Kislyak also had died.
So we have Kislyak who's dead. We have Churkin who is dead. We have an email from 2019, or this 2017, I'm sorry, 2017, where very credible email where Epstein is reaching out to Jaglin to get direct access to Putin and Lavrov. And it doesn't seem like, he doesn't say, who the fuck are you? What are you thinking?
No.
It's just the ordinary course. We also see the he died question mark exclamation mark. That is a very loaded comment, which basically means, holy shit, was he murdered?
Yeah. Well, okay. So I want to right here, just pause for a second. So you don't sound like a tinfoil and I don't sound like a tinfoil. There's a wonderful book by, is it Luke Harding?
I love Luke Harding.
Litvinenko. Yeah. A very expensive poison, about the poisoning.
Did he write that?
He wrote that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Cool. It's incredible. And in that book and in many other, he was the Moscow bureau chief for The Guardian, I believe. Now I'm kind of sorry guys, I don't have those details. It's just coming to me. So I apologize if I'm getting any of this wrong, Luke. But so he had been in Russia. He knew Russia. He knew how Russia operated. He'd seen what happened to Litvinenko, who was the sort of the head of organized crime division within the FSB, which is their sort of FBI, who was the one who spoke out in 2006, I believe it was, and said, Russia has become a mafia state. The mafia's taken over. And then he had to flee. They put him in prison. They did this sort of Navalny thing to him and they got out. They got him out. And he fled. His lawyers were able to work something with one of a very powerful former oligarch who also was killed in the West, that had left Russia when Vladimir Putin was seizing more and more control because it was very dangerous for Berezovsky was his name. So they helped get Litvinenko out. He's over in the UK. He's working with MI6 and trying to kind of take some things down, and then he's poisoned. Right. And what that book details is not just that poisoning, but other poisonings that the Russian Federation had engaged in post-Soviet years under Vladimir Putin specifically. They have a poison factory, and there's all kinds of poisons that they develop that kill people. Some of it very toxic and dangerous, like what happened to Litvinenko, and others, can do sort of a one shot. There was an accountant, I believe it was, that died of a heart attack, but then they found the traces of the poison in his system that make it look like you have a heart attack from a plant similar to oleander. So just so you guys know, poisoning deaths that demonstrate as heart attacks are a specialty of the Russian Federation.
That and window defenestration.
Window cancer, we call it. Yes, they have a way. Catch the window cancer and out the window they go.
This is so dark, but thank you.
It's dark, but this is what they do. And different elements of that, different ways of killing people kind of fall under different mafia heads, to be frank.
Like their signatures. It's their signature, right?
It's a signature. The Solnitskaya Bratva was very, very big on explosions. So car bombs, apartment building bombs, and that's the Bratva that had really taken over the FSB that Litvinenko was warning about. So I'm sorry, that's a lot of Russian mafia.
No, it's no, but let's just, so this is, so if we get this, and of course, look, if you are someone who is involved in laundering money through networks, if you're involved with Russia and you're involved with big money and secrecy and compromat, of course, Epstein is always going to be worried about being killed. You would be a fool not to. And even though Epstein has poor grammar in his emails and is a disgusting person, he is not a fool, and he could see this. So let me just say, let's just do this time frame. We get this guy, right after we get Churkin dies, right? And then this is in February of 2017. This is Epstein to Reed Weingarten, one of his lawyers, forwarding another email. This is the very bottom. This February 18th, 2017, Epstein says to Roy Black, a lawyer of his, who will represent Acosta at hearings. Remember, Acosta is the guy who at that time in February 2017 had been nominated to be labor secretary. But we know
Secretary of
Acosta,
Labor oversees also any kind of laws, sort of the administration sort of overseeing, like, the health and human is over health. Human trafficking and sex trafficking falls under Secretary of Labor. Not that the government is involved in those things. I'm not saying that, but the oversight of it. So,
and as you know, remind us all,
post for this guy
Acosta,
the guy.
But Acosta, Epstein knows very well because he was a fixer.
He gave him the deal. He gave him.
Acosta was right. He made sure the federal charges were never filed. He was the U.S. attorney. So he wants to know because he's worried that some senators are going to ask about that. He wants him to have a handler who will represent Acosta at hearings. Black says he will be by himself, perhaps a Trump administration's aide to assist and accompany him. And
hang on.
Yeah.
Why does Roy Black know what's going to go on with Acosta?
Right. Well, I don't know. And then Jeffrey obviously didn't like this. And so he forwards it to Reed Weingarten. By the way, Roy Black is no longer alive. I think he died of old age.
I'm just saying, why is a private attorney
more
read in on the details of what's happening with the labor secretary?
Right. So this was a gift. Obviously, they wanted to give Acosta a position. There are a lot of people in this government who the spoils are given because they know something.
That's right.
So we get the next thing. So this is now.
Oh no.
Yesterday, this is the email where Landon Thomas Jr., he was the guy who wrote the New York Magazine article about the International Man of Mystery and quoted Trump of saying Epstein likes him on the young side. That was from 2002. Well, now he's working at the New York Times, and Epstein is a source of his, and he says he tips off Jeff Epstein that Connolly, who was a co-author of Filthy Rich or whatever the book was about, the first book on Epstein, says he's digging around again, not clear if it's another book or expanded paperback edition, was asking me all sorts of questions about why you hired Ken Starr. So Ken Starr was another attorney back in Florida. I told him I had no idea. I think he is doing some Trump-related digging too. Anyway, for what it's worth, this is a financial reporter for the New York Times. By the way, this was 2017. He gets fired in 2019. Because when they want him, I'm sorry, not 2019, in 2018, when they want him to maybe cover Jeff Epstein, because that's when the stories start to come out from the Miami Herald, he tells his editor, well, hey, Jeff and I are friends. I can't really write about him. He's a source. And by the way, he gave $30,000 to my favorite charity. It's a money story. Okay, so then we get, I'm gonna skip the Larry Summers stuff because I want to get to the Russia. So this was the 2018 Russia. Churkin was great. Our email.
Wait, can I just pause a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
I know you want to skip the Larry Summers stuff because of
Okay,
Russia,
let's go to Larry Summers.
But understand that Larry Summers was part of Bill Clinton's team that went over to when the Soviet Union collapsed, that helped them figure out and reorchestrate how they were going to set up their economy.
Such a good point, because Bill Clinton takes office in 1993, right?
Yeah.
Right. Oh my God, the overlap. Okay, and there's so many, and of course, the thing about Larry Summers, there's so many things I could say about him, one of which is I helped orchestrate a letter saying that he should absolutely not be Fed chair in the, I can't remember which administration we're talking about now. Maybe it was Obama. I can't remember now what I had done and when I did this, but whatever. The point is, he's obviously incredibly connected. He is also in these communications with Jeff Epstein, apparently married, and also getting advice about a woman he was seeing, but also that he's so close. And of course, he was president of Harvard, and Jeff Epstein was a huge donor to Harvard. But I think they also liked each other for other reasons. Now, we got the Churkin piece. This is now, right after this Churkin email, right after this, I want to talk to Lavrov in June of 2018. we get to November, and this is where the shit hits the fan for Jeffrey. This is when Julie K. Brown does this huge expose, number of articles in the Miami Herald about Acosta and about Epstein and about the women and girls who were not listened to. What results from that, now I'm like, that was November. Just a few months later, we get Epstein to Michael Wolff saying whatever the name of the victim was, Mar-a-Lago, then redacted. Trump said he asked me to resign. Never remember ever. Of course he knew about the girls. He asked Ghislaine to stop. I think Epstein probably didn't pay a membership fee. He may have been on the rolls, but we know he was on those rolls for well beyond when he was recruiting in 2000, recruiting away Virginia Giuffre. Now, Michael Wolff shows up a fuck ton. And I do wonder whether Michael Wolff is the reason why Jeff Epstein is now dead. Because let's look at this. Oh, God. This is the big email. You can't see this, so I'm going to blow this up. Can you see it better now?
Yeah, no, I had never heard anybody say that. But yeah, talking to Michael Wolff, who was as loose as could be all over the place. Yeah, so probably not great.
This is an email you guys probably can't see all of them. I'm going to pull away from you. This is the longest email I have seen Jeff Epstein send. It's February of 2019. I think he's freaking out because he realizes this story isn't going away, that Julie K. Brown and everyone is swarming around this. Victims are coming out again. And he sends this, Jeff Epstein sends this email to himself. So he writes something, kind of like if you wrote in notes, he writes himself an email, I think. And then, and then he forwards his self-written email to Michael Wolff. And he is on a rant. Like, I didn't do anything. At first, it's about the prostitution is a state crime. Why is everyone focused on the FBI? And he goes on and on and on. But then he switches over to Virginia working at Mar-a-Lago. Trump knew about it. His housemen knew about it. And then it just goes on and on. And then he brings the Russians in. This last paragraph. And he says about the reason why we got into this fight over this house. And he says, something about his home was that he bought. Abe Gossman, a friend of mine, ran into financial difficulty with assisted living homes. His home was listed at $45 million with no takers for months. He and I agreed on a price of $30 million. His wife ends up going to jail for lying to the bankruptcy trustee about her jewelry. This is the summer of 2004. I became the stalking horse bidder at $36 million. If someone bid higher, I would receive a fee. This is what you do. So no matter what, he was going to get money. He quickly puts it on the market for $125 million. And then no one will touch it. And then 3 years later, he sells it. Then Trump buys it, right? Trump gets this. Trump buys it. And then 3 years later, 2008, he sells it to Robolov. I can't say his name, for approximately $100 million. So this thing, I can't say his name, this whole thing that he is talking about here, as you know, and I can show you the picture of that purchase because we can go back to that. This is Epstein running his mouth. And this is the picture. Okay, this is this Russian tycoon, Russian mafia business guy. Here he is. He bought this house for $95 million. It was suspicious at the time. This is an article from 2008 in The Guardian. That's a picture of it. So again, you've talked about this for a while as being what the real reason why there was a falling out. Do you want to speak to what it means that he was running his mouth to Michael Wolff about this at that time? Or about the whole transaction.
My interpretation of it, and who knows? We're doing this, right? Not tea leaving, but just sort of how am I reacting to this? And what am I thinking about based on my expertise and the stuff that I have worked on? So my reading of that, where he feels the need, and as you said, it's the longest one he wrote. He's
Right.
he's going into detail. It's not just about why they might have had a falling out, and he's trying to defend himself and sort of say, I was right. Because probably you're kind of going, where is this coming from?
Right.
Why does he feel like he has to be doing this now? So is word getting back to him that Donald is saying, I got rid of him because he fucked me over on a deal and blah, 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 blah. Like it's almost feels like, and who would that be coming back through? It feels like that's coming back through the Kremlin to
Right.
Jeffrey of like, well, he's pissed because he's da, 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 da. And he says, no, we can't trust what you are trying to sell us. And it's, even though he's not speaking to the Kremlin, he's answering from some other place, from some past conversation, and filling in dots about an argument or a dispute over the facts and what actually happened between he and Trump. And he's dropping Rybovlyov's, that deal. He's dropping that deal for a reason. Jeffrey's not an idiot. He's not. He's much
Right.
smarter than Donald when it comes to like this stuff,
Right.
clearly, you know. So he knows that's getting back there. It's like, I've got the goods on the Rybovlyov money laundering thing.
And I think
Understand?
this, I
It's like
totally do. And let me tell you what I
there's an
think he's putting
innuendo to
together.
me, I feel like is being said there. And I
Let me
don't
tell
know.
you. Yeah.
I don't
go
think
ahead.
he's talking to the person that he is in the email. I think he's
Right. He's not talking to
answering.
Michael Wolff. He wrote it to himself. Oh, I
Right.
see. And he's forwarding it to Michael Wolff. So Michael has that information maybe to pass to somebody.
Yes.
Now, let me
Or
tell you
no,
how.
he's
Go ahead.
giving it to Michael Wolff because Michael Wolff is doing it. He's writing it to himself because he knows he's being observed.
Oh, shit. He
That's what
feels
I see.
right.
He's
Let me.
answering a whole discussion of stuff. There's a whole swirl of something happening, and he feels the need to just write this thing out, send it to himself. This is what's really going on. I know you're watching me. I know how this all works. I mean, I've said this about Jeffrey Epstein from the beginning. This guy, yes, intelligent, but I don't think in those days, back in the 90s, he's Mr. Radio Shack, right? I don't think he's the one who wired up his house for that surveillance. You know,
Good point.
his partner is the daughter of the most prominent Mossad and KGB spy in the public eye that ever fucking lived and was able to be outspoken about it. Robert
Now,
Maxwell.
do you want your mind blown? I'm putting two things together now that I've never put together because you're the only person I could do this with.
Okay.
So this email where he's just spilling all this stuff,
Yeah.
right? It starts with, wait, it wasn't that big of a deal. Like, of course, a labor secretary, of course, Acosta dropped this because it was just soliciting prostitution. So he's also saying, Donald Trump was speaking out saying, I told, he was a creep and that's why I told him, that's why the thing ended. And he's like, well, wait, his mind goes to, wait a second. I actually think he was pissed at me before then. Why is he writing this? Let's go back to this. This is the email from 2011, the most important one. This is one of the 3 that the Democrats dropped, not the 20,000. This is the email, April of 2011. And Jeff says to Ghislaine, I want you to realize that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Virginia spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned. Police chief, etc. In this part, I'm 75% there. And she says, I've been thinking about that.
Yeah,
75% there is he's more than 50-50 thinking Donald dropped the dime on him.
I think
it clicks with him.
Yeah,
go
I'm
ahead.
75% there might mean something else.
What do you think?
Well, so we don't know what he kept, records that he kept. We know there was stuff in his safe. We know that, we know he was recording everything. That's well documented in the court cases, everything, all that evidence came out. But we're seeing now, and people are playing a little bit of a game. I can't remember the name of the U.S. attorney that went and sat with Ghislaine Maxwell and sent her to to go get a puppy.
Oh, no, you mean the Deputy Attorney General of the United States, Todd Blanche.
Todd Blanche, that's right. We're seeing Todd Blanche come out just like yesterday and say, I wasn't lying when I said what we talked about with, I wasn't aware of what the state had. The Epstein estate had more information than the Attorney General's office had.
Doesn't matter. He could have asked better questions.
He could have asked better questions. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Right. Yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough. Right.
I'm just saying.
Fair.
I'm not criticizing him. Or trying to point out or call him a liar or whatever. I'm just saying. A piece of information is dropping there, and that is that the Trump administration and the Department of Justice, even though they can get anything they want, doesn't have is kind of expressing we didn't have everything. Now, whether that's an excuse or not, it's a dynamic that could exist. So you've got the Epstein estate.
Oh my God. So you're saying it's not that even though it's not that Trump hasn't spoken out, he's saying no one's caught Trump. I'm 75% ready to set him up. Is that what that is about?
Yeah. He's working with the Kremlin. He's working with the Kremlin. He's working his channels. He's not 100% there in exposing Donald.
But Donald's
there's a strategy and a plan.
It's 2011. It's 2011 and Donald's, oh my God. So Donald was just this reality TV star, but in 2011, he was still talking about maybe running against Obama in the election. So now if Donald Trump this is a way of holding the Kremlin could maybe control him as a puppet. Is that what you're kind of getting at? Or bust him? Like, why would you want to bust Donald Trump in 2011, except out of vengeance? What do you think? Is it that? This is interesting.
These are two people who were running sophisticated blackmail operations on global business leaders, heads of state, and delivering the fruits of their work that they had help and assistance and gathering in the first place back to foreign intelligence services or whoever else would pay for them. That's the racket that's their little thing they were doing. Right. So yeah, it could, something's happening here. I'm 75% there. Is it I'm 75% emotionally and intellectually ready to turn on my friend?
I see.
Is it I'm 75% through the process of how we're going to who I'm selling this to and who's going to ultimately end up owning this guy who already is a puppet of the Kremlin? What we don't know something else is afoot is what I'm saying. And
so, okay. I totally think that makes
his
sense.
Partner in the blackmail operation.
Okay. And so we get to 2019. He writes this email to himself. He's frantic because all these news stories are coming out.
Yeah.
Obviously, by then, there's probably a moment where he's probably under investigation by the FBI right then because the news stories come out. What we know that happens next, and there might be other emails, February, he writes that frantic email.
Yeah.
And then he gets charged in early July, right? What happens next? End of July, Mueller finally testifies before Congress.
Right.
And the very next day was when Donald Trump had the famous phone call with, Zelensky.
Right.
Saying, do us a favor, because he wanted Zelensky to get in front of a camera and say Joe Biden was corrupt because he wanted to win. This would also have helped Putin. And then within days, Epstein is found dead in prison.
Correct.
Right?
Go back a little bit. Can you go back to
where?
2018?
Sure. Sorry, I'm just going to go fast.
Okay,
I got
going.
Here's
June 2018. Okay.
This is the Jagland.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you want me to do November 2018 or just June?
No.
Right
June.
here. Okay. What are you doing?
So they're getting ready. He's getting ready. Somebody's going to connect him. You've got a high-powered European official getting ready. They all know they have to talk in person. Epstein is like, this meeting has to happen in person.
Right.
Yeah. 16th of July, 2018 was Helsinki.
Oh my God. So Helsinki, oh my God, that was July 16th.
3 weeks
and when
later.
when was he indicted? Was he already
3 weeks later?
3 weeks later.
3 weeks after that email, Trump was in Helsinki with Vladimir Putin, and the whole intelligence, the global intelligence community exploded understanding very
Oh
clearly
my
that he was owned
God.
by Vladimir Putin.
Right, because he walked out with a hang-dog. When was Epstein
Like
arrested? I want to
70.
know the exact date.
And they
Oh
made
my
sure
God,
that
before that.
the translators, there was no notes,
Right.
nothing. Right.
Oh my God. So Epstein probably never got his meeting. In other words, it takes a long time to
Epstein
bring, or
didn't
he did.
want he
Did
wanted
Epstein ever
them to
meet?
meet in person. He wanted
Oh,
them. He wanted Chicken and they were supposed to meet in
oh my
person.
God. He wanted Trump to be face to face so they could say there's shit on
No,
you or
no.
something. No. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
He wanted Vladimir Putin and Lavrov to meet with Churkin about the information that he
Not
had
Turkin.
shared.
Turkin was dead. Turkin,
Churkin
you
was already
mean
dead by then?
he
Okay,
wanted this new,
go back to the 2018 email.
I got it. He wanted the,
Churkin was great. Oh yeah, then he's died. Right.
right.
It's not complex. He must be seen to get something. He
He
must.
wants the Churkin substitute. He wants to be
Oh,
able to
that's
meet
right.
with
He must
Lavrov.
Lavrov. I'll meet with Lavrov on Monday, and we'll suggest he must be seen. Yeah, it's that simple. So he must be seen. I'm so sorry. I got Churkin
No, let's
in
go
the
ahead. The date here, let's put, so everyone can see, we're June 2018, and within less than a year, Epstein's in prison. Okay.
right. But 3 weeks later is Helsinki. So
No, you
yeah,
said Helsinki was 2019,
no,
2018.
Helsinki is July 16th, 2018.
Oh, I get it now. This makes more sense. Oh
Yes.
my God.
3 weeks after that email, Trump is in Helsinki with Vladimir Putin doing the thing that made everybody go, "Holy shit, he's owned by Vladimir Putin," because it was the craziest thing we've ever seen, and there's no translator. So
So
what
it's
was Vladimir Putin
possible. Okay,
in
go
the
ahead.
meeting before before they came out and did their press conference? What did Vladimir Putin say to Trump? 3 weeks after Jeffrey Epstein is saying Lavrov must be met in person. I think that's who he's saying, must be met in person. He's not talking about meeting him in person or Trump in person. He's
Right.
talking about the
Lavrov.
information that I have, Jeffrey Epstein has, is so damning and explosive and provable. Provable. This would never be gossip. Provable. He's got evidence, right? That
Right.
for it to be shared between heads of state, they have to share it in person. Let's go back
And
to
so
that
I
email.
think, so what we need to know, and I haven't looked through the news, between
Yeah.
June 24th of 2018 and then Helsinki, there could have been some person. I mean, Epstein's right near
They
the
met.
UN. They met and that got passed along. And so then a
Yes.
year, but then how does,
Or not,
why
or not, or not. But the
or not?
timing is right there.
And that's why and then they have all this pressure coming from Julie K. Brown. They could have slow walked that prosecution. They
Yeah.
wanted to get somehow, and maybe it was Michael Wolff with his loose, someone figured out that it was, and maybe it was Putin talking to Trump. Your boy Epstein told me this shit. Or maybe Trump
Not
knew
just tell me,
Epstein was the
we've
only
got the
one.
goods. We've got
He said,
the
we've seen the
goods.
photos of you with the girls. He knows as soon as Trump gets back, oh, wait a second, shit, if that was 2018, that's before the Julie K. Brown story comes out. So it's all part of the, I mean, I actually think this makes a lot of sense. I think we just need to find out what, I think this whole year between July of 2018, right before Helsinki, and when Epstein is imprisoned and killed is going to be the most important time frame to understand why. Now, so Donald Trump doesn't want this stuff to come out because it's quite possible in these files there's some information about the Russians. That's what I think.
Yeah. And then, you have a November 2018 thing going on there.
Yeah, that was when Julie K. Brown, here we go. That's when her story starts to break.
Right. So I believe also in November 2018 is when we all started seeing all those weird Russian ships outside Mar-a-Lago. Remember that?
Oh my
stuff?
gosh. Yeah.
There was all this crazy stuff happening in November 2018.
I'm going to do some research before I come on your show tonight so I can fill this
we'll both
in.
do it. Because I wasn't ready for even that to fall out
I
of
know
my
you
but I'm
already
remembering.
coming together this morning.
Yeah.
I wake up in the morning and my brain's on fire and so I would have warned you about what I was going to do to you if I knew.
Listen, I think the takeaway of our conversation today is what the emails, and it's new, right? So this is going to take time.
Right.
Do it properly and to analyze this and to sort of look at it and not spin people off into conspiracy theories, but just say, what do we have that's demonstrable? And, can we say cause and correlation? The points where we, don't want to make that assumption, but we certainly can put things side by side and sort of say, okay, the big picture is starting to really fill in. And and that is to now look at Trump Russia through the Epstein frame.
Totally. I'm with you, girl. Oh my God, it's time for us to break. Thank God, because I think our listeners need another cup of coffee right now.
I need one
It's been amazing. It's been amazing. I'll see you on the other side with a cocktail, I think is what I'm going to say.
I'll see you on the other side.
And I'm going to play our theme music that one of the mods, Jason made, Jason Smith.
Wonderful.
Let's go.
I think my coffee's sitting there in the coffee maker.
Hello, prison mates. It's the Jen Taub Show. Well, welcome everyone. Let's learn about what is happening in politics yesterday and today. There is hope, and we are together in this democracy we work for. And again, welcome to the Jen Taub Show.